I call a member for Gellibrand.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, earlier this week we saw something truly extraordinary, a recognition at the highest levels of economic policymaking of a truth that's currently being felt in households across Australia. The Reserve Bank Governor, Philip Lowe, told the Crawford Australian Leadership Summit that the lack of real wage growth in the Australian economy was a crisis.
That's right. And
he's right. Australians have now experienced 4 years of declining wages growth under the Abbott-Turnbull government. Wages growth is flatlining at just 1.9% per annum, the lowest on record. And in real terms, wages have actually contracted. Indeed, they've contracted the most since the recession of the 1990s. Living standards have stagnated and inequality is at a 75-year high. Things have gotten so bad that Senator Betts has stopped warning about an imminent wages breakout. The Reserve Bank Governor isn't interested in this as a question of industrial fairness, though. Things have gotten so bad that the absence of wage growth in our economy is now a serious economic challenge for Australia.
Right.
Indeed, the Governor noted, quote, "Households are gradually coming to grips with slower growth in their real incomes. Growth in wages is unusually low. Average hours worked have declined and the nature of employment is changing. Many households are also coming to grips with higher debt levels and, in our larger cities, high housing prices. We need to watch these issues carefully." Wages growth is so weak that it's now acting as a choke on household spending, limiting the growth of prospects of the Australian economy. The RBA Governor came to the conclusion that workers should ask for a raise. The RBA Governor gets it, but the Prime Minister and the Treasurer remain completely out of touch. The Treasurer this week, overturning decades of economic orthodoxy linking wages growth to productivity growth, suggested in response to questions about this economic crisis that the best way to respond was to cut company tax, because to cut company taxes would increase corporate profits and, quote, "wage increases should follow the profits that companies are making." Now let's pause just for a moment to reflect on a Treasurer who has become such a lost cause, such a joke, that nobody is even surprised at his latest fumbling of basic economic policy. It's barely noted. The Treasurer's transformation in his short period in office as he's evolved from a bully boy Biff Tannen type when he was on top to a shouty but kind of unpersuasive Brick Tamblyn type to today's sad spectacle, the vaguely pathetic Ralph Wiggum, who we've seen in action all week. He is a joke. And even if you were to subscribe to the Treasurer's unique corporate profit-driven view of the world, company profits are up 40% last year, while wages are only up 0.9%. Does that sound fair? A government who cared about fairness would be trying to tackle this crisis. But what's the Turnbull government's response? What do they say when they ask what their plan is to deal with this crisis and give Australian households an income boost? More of the same. More of the same $65 billion tax cuts. Actually, it's not quite as good as that. If they were doing nothing, it would be fairer than what they are actually doing. Instead, they're actively making things worse, greasing the rails for the well-off who are already doing well, and adding yet more lead to the saddlebags of working Australians. In 10 days' time, on July 1, we'll see an increase in income tax for all PAYE earners earning over $21,000. Not all of them, actually. On the same day, we will see a $16,000 400 tax cut for millionaires and a tax cut for all of the top 2 to 3% of income earners earning more than $180,000 a year. On the same day, quarterly power bills will go out, pricing in the policy uncertainty, the policy failure of the Turnbull government's ideological divisions on energy and climate policy, pricing in a refusal to act on the recommendations of the Finkel Review to introduce a clean energy target, to bring down emissions, to bring down electricity prices, to provide certainty of supply for Australian households. We'll see a continuing refusal to address tax concessions skewed to the top end of town, like negative gearing and capital gains tax, prioritising those who are already doing well, prioritising the best off. And most shamefully of all, we will see a government continuing to refuse to intervene to stop a wage cut for Australia's lowest paid. This week, the Reserve Bank Governor said Australian workers should ask for a raise, and this week the Turnbull government will refuse to stand in the way of a cut to the wages of 700,000 of the most vulnerable workers in our economy. These are the people that need a wage rise the most. These are the people who are living from paycheck to paycheck. These are the people who every dollar that comes in goes back out to the Australian economy, driving that jobs and growth that those opposites so often claim. What is the Turnbull government doing to attack this macro policy problem, the problem of a lack of consumer spending in our economy? What is the Turnbull government doing to address the moral problem that we confront? with inequality at a 75-year high. Those
Order.
who have
Members' time has expired.